Cassie and her husband, Joey, meticulously followed all the recommended steps when they discovered Cassie was pregnant. They diligently underwent the necessary tests and took all precautions to ensure a smooth and healthy pregnancy. Little did they know that their journey would take an unexpected turn. After receiving the joyous news of being pregnant, the couple was informed by doctors that Cassie was facing a high-risk pregnancy due to the fact that she was carrying triplets. Medical professionals advised the couple to induce labor early with a fertility drug. But Cassie, determined to carry her babies as long as possible, opted to wait until she reached 34 weeks in her third trimester. To be closer to medical assistance, Cassie temporarily moved from their rural farmhouse to Wichita. On January 29, 2016, Cassie underwent a C-section, welcoming 3 healthy babies at 34 weeks. While she quickly recovered and was discharged from the hospital 2 days later, her husband Joey and their children stayed behind for observation. Cassie's happiness was soon disrupted when she woke to a sharp pain in her chest and a racing heart, signaling that something was wrong. In a rush, Joey brought Cassie back to the hospital, where a CT scan revealed a blood clot in her lungs. After further tests and a 2-day hospital stay, she was eventually discharged. Cassie and Joey thought the worst was behind them as they visited their triplets, Asher, Piper, and Levi, in the NICU, and then returned to their Kansas farmhouse. They were looking forward to reuniting with their 2 older daughters, Chloe and Tenley. Little did they know that a dark cloud was looming over their happiness. When Cassie and Joey returned home, they expected to go back to the hospital soon to bring their triplets home. Cassie was overjoyed to be back home after 2 hospital stays within a short period. She quickly resumed her routine as a mother, doing laundry, pumping breast milk, folding baby clothes, and even baking cookies. Joey, on the other hand, went to pick up their older children from daycare. And on the way, he told them about a surprise waiting at home. The reunion between Cassie and her older children, Chloe and Tenley, was a profoundly emotional moment, marked by tears and hugs. The entire family was elated to be back together, and Cassie couldn't contain her joy at being reunited with her little ones. The celebration took a tragic turn when Cassie began to experience severe chest pain just minutes after reuniting with her family. She initially tried to rest, but her husband, Joey, immediately rushed her into their car and headed for the nearest hospital. As her symptoms persisted, Joey drove as fast as he could, fully aware of the dire situation. Tragically, Cassie lost consciousness in the seat next to him, and she never regained consciousness. Recalling the heartbreaking moment, Joey said, "My emotions were numb, it didn't feel real at all. It was, for sure, the worst moment of my life." At the hospital, the doctors did everything they could. But despite their best efforts and Joey's desperate hope, Cassie was lost forever. Joey noted, "I was trying to wake her up, the doctors worked on her for a long time, but there wasn't a whole lot they could do." Cassie's untimely death had a profound impact on those she left behind. Joey described her as a perfect person, one of those special individuals who radiated love and always extended a helping hand to those in need. She worked as a secretary at the local elementary school and was known for her unwavering support of children, often going the extra mile, even at her own expense. Coping with Cassie's passing was especially challenging, particularly for their daughters. One of them frequently spoke about her mother and how she had gone to heaven. Joey found himself in the position of both a father and mother to their 5 children, 3 of whom required significant care and attention. He had to juggle his responsibilities, including changing diapers, preparing meals, and spending quality time with his children. As time passed, He often wondered how Cassie would handle certain situations and realized that she would have encouraged him to step up and fulfill his role in raising their children. Fortunately, Joey, who had decided to stay in the home he shared with his late wife, received support from friends, family, and caregivers. They were there to lend a helping hand with the responsibilities of raising their children, providing much-needed assistance and comfort during this difficult period. The support from well-wishers poured in online, contributing over $100,000 to assist Joey during this challenging time. Chuck and Barbara Joy, who lived just 7 miles away, generously offered their help in looking after their grandchildren. Barbara, a nurse, described the experience as bittersweet, as Cassie had been like a daughter to her. She also emphasized the steep learning curve her son faced, transitioning from merely assisting his wife to becoming both mom and dad. Despite the difficulties, Joey persevered. Joey made the decision not to part with Cassie's belongings, which included her numerous paintings. He found it too emotionally challenging to let go of these possessions. One thing he had no trouble doing, however, was ensuring his children remained well aware of how much their mother loved them. After the birth of their second child, Cassie had told him, "If something ever happens to me, just make sure the kids know how much I love them." Joey has been dedicated to keeping her memory alive and raising their children in a manner he believes Cassie would have wanted. Moving forward after the loss of their children's mother initially seemed insurmountable. However, Joey learned that fate never sends a trial that one cannot overcome. So far, he appears to be on the right track. On January 30, 2022, Joey shared an uplifting update on his Facebook page dedicated to his wife's memory. He posted a picture of their adorable triplets celebrating their 6th birthday. In 2023, they turned 7. Over the years, Joey has shared various images of the children growing up happily and safely. In January 2019, the triplets were captured smiling while lying on the floor, with the only girl in the middle wearing pajamas. During the festive season of 2018, they featured in a professionally taken Christmas photo, and the post indicated that they would turn 3 the following month. The post also highlighted their unique personalities as they continued to grow quickly. In July 2020, the triplets had reached 4 years of age and were about to start 2nd grade, displaying noticeable growth. Their father also shared that he had remarried a few years prior and welcomed another child, a baby boy named Dawson, with his new wife. Their older sisters, Tenley and Chloe, were starting their 1st and 5th grades. And all the children were doing well. Joey's family kept Cassie's memory alive by honoring her on Mother's Day in 2016. The post featured Cassie with one of her older children, holding a carved-out pumpkin, wishing a very special mother in heaven a happy Mother's Day. This story illustrates the strength of a devoted father and his commitment to preserving the memory of his late wife. It showcases the resilience of individuals when faced with life's challenges. As the Armstrong family's jet landed on the tarmac, the son found himself expelled from an upscale shop. The sun was just beginning to set, casting a warm glow over the bustling city that unfolded before them. It was a captivating tapestry of old and new, where historical landmarks stood tall, surrounded by glistening skyscrapers that reached into the azure sky. Jamal's eyes were glued to the window as the car carried them from the airport. He couldn't help but gaze at the sights that greeted him at every turn. This trip was highly anticipated, not only because it meant exploring a new city but also because he had heard countless stories about the new store. His father, Mr. Armstrong, often shared tales about the latest addition to their extensive chain of luxury car dealerships. This particular store was unique. More than just a showroom, it was a testament to innovation, showcasing cars that embodied luxury and cutting-edge engineering. The design seemed more like art than automobiles. And the engines promised power while whispering sustainability. The technology on display was futuristic. More tomorrow than today. Jamal, fueled by his growing passion for cars, was eager to witness it all firsthand. While the cityscape continued to weave its mesmerizing blend of past and future, the Armstrong family discussed their plans. Lisa, Jamal's mother, had a penchant for exploring local markets. Driven by her love for indigenous crafts and a desire to discover the treasures the city had to offer. Mr. Armstrong, always supportive of his wife's interests, was more than willing to accompany her. However, Jamal had a different agenda. The car showroom beckoned him irresistibly, its allure growing stronger with every passing moment. Turning to his parents, his eyes filled with anticipation. He couldn't contain his request. "Dad, can I visit the car shop, please? I promise I won't touch anything, I just want to see it." Mr. Armstrong exchanged a glance with Lisa, who smiled understandingly. She knew the depth of their son's passion. "All right." Mr. Armstrong agreed, ruffling Jamal's hair. "But be careful. And call us if you need anything." Jamal had been granted the approval he had longed for. His heart raced even faster. And he could already picture the sleek contours of the cars. Feel the cold, smooth touch of their polished exteriors. And hear the soft hum of their idling engines. The adventure was just beginning. And Jamal was more than ready. The Armstrongs dropped Jamal off at the grand entrance of the showroom, its glass facade reflecting the warm hues of the setting sun. They exchanged goodbyes, promises of caution, and plans to reunite in a few hours. As Mr. Armstrong and Lisa disappeared into the labyrinthine markets, where exotic spices scented the air and the distant murmur of haggling filled the atmosphere, Jamal took a deep breath. His excitement was palpable as he stepped into the world of his dreams. The moment Jamal's foot crossed the threshold of the showroom, he felt like he had stepped into an entirely different world. Dazzling lights hung from the high ceiling, casting a golden hue over the vast space. The cars on display glistened like precious jewels, each one exuding an aura of opulence and state-of-the-art craftsmanship. Jamal's fingers itched to touch them, to feel the cold smoothness of the paint, to trace the aerodynamic curves and contours that made each vehicle unique. He strolled past a sleek silver sports car with a futuristic design that seemed plucked from a sci-fi movie. The next was an elegant sedan, its deep blue paint reflecting the surroundings like a calm midnight lake. In his imagination, Jamal found himself in the driver's seat, feeling the powerful engines thrum, the soft purr turning into a formidable roar as he pressed down on the accelerator. Lost in his own world as he meandered through the showroom, Jamal barely noticed the eyes that followed his every move. The store manager, a tall man with sharp features and an even sharper gaze, watched him intently. Every step Jamal took, every car he touched seemed to irk the manager further. It didn't take long before the manager's patience wore thin. His sharp voice cut through Jamal's reverie, startling him. "You shouldn't be here. This isn't a place for kids like you." The words were biting, laden with disdain, and the unspoken prejudices behind them hung heavily in the air. Jamal's heart sank. And before he could find his voice to explain who he was, the manager's hand closed around his arm with a firm and unyielding grip. The gentle caress of the cars was replaced by the harsh reality of the situation as he was ushered toward the exit. Jamal tried to protest, to wriggle out of the manager's grasp. But the hold was relentless. Rosa, a kind-faced employee who had been arranging brochures nearby, observed the scene. She quickly stepped forward, attempting to intervene. "Sir," she began, her voice steady. "He's just a kid. Maybe we should stay out of this." The manager snapped, cutting her off, his voice leaving no room for discussion. Defeated and feeling helpless, Jamal lowered his head, trying to hold back the tears that threatened to spill. As he neared the exit, he felt a comforting touch on his shoulder. Rosa, in a discreet act of kindness, gave him a reassuring pat and leaned in to whisper, "Everything will be okay." The door closed softly behind Jamal, leaving him outside, his dreams crushed. But Rosa's words continued to echo in Jamal's ears, a small beacon of hope in an otherwise disheartening situation. Little did he know that this unfortunate incident would soon lead to a turning point. Not just for him, but for the entire showroom. As Jamal stepped out of the showroom, a wave of emotions threatened to consume him. The glaring sunlight felt more like a spotlight on his distress, and every whisper of the wind seemed like hushed voices discussing his humiliation. He fumbled with his phone, his fingers shaking, and dialed his parents. The phone barely rang twice before Mr. Armstrong's voice answered, a hint of concern evident. "Jamal, is everything okay?" Jamal tried to speak, but his voice cracked, carrying the weight of the experience breaking through. He relayed the incident, each word carrying the pain of being unjustly judged. There was a palpable silence on the other end, followed by a deep sigh from Mr. Armstrong. The undercurrent of fury in his voice was evident, but he spoke in measured tones, a testament to his years of handling tough situations. "Stay where you are, we're on our way." Within minutes, a sleek black car pulled up in front of the showroom. The back door opened, and out stepped Mr. Armstrong. His usually cheerful demeanor was replaced by a stern and imposing presence. Beside him, Lisa looked equally upset, her protective maternal instincts on high alert. Together, they made a formidable pair. The moment they entered the showroom, the atmosphere shifted. Employees who recognized Mr. Armstrong immediately stiffened, and whispers filled the air. The manager, busy attending to another customer, looked up and froze. The color drained from his face, and his earlier confidence deflated instantly. The weight of realization pressed down on him, recognizing Jamal and the gravity of his previous actions. The manager stammered, trying to sound jovial but failing as his voice quivered with nervousness. "Mr. Armstrong. What a surprise. I wasn't expecting you today." Mr. Armstrong's unwavering gaze swept across the vast showroom, and his deep voice echoed through the space. "Neither was I. But it seems I had some pressing matters to attend to," he said, the undercurrent of displeasure unmistakable. The manager fumbled for words as Rosa bravely stepped forward. She met Mr. Armstrong's gaze with genuine remorse in her eyes. "Mr. and Mrs. Armstrong, I deeply apologize for what transpired today. It was unacceptable, and I assure you it's not reflective of our company's values," she said. Jamal, who had been silently standing by the entrance, felt a renewed surge of emotion. Tears filled his eyes as he stepped forward and pointed to Rosa. "Dad," he choked out. "She was the only one who stood up for me. She tried to help." Mr. Armstrong's gaze softened as he looked at Rosa, and his nod was slight but filled with gratitude. Lisa approached Jamal, enveloping him in a comforting embrace, her eyes throwing daggers at the now sheepish manager. The showroom, usually filled with the soft hum of conversations and the subtle sounds of luxury cars, was now steeped in heavy silence. Everyone waited with bated breath, wondering what Mr. Armstrong's next move would be. It was clear that this incident had repercussions far beyond a simple misunderstanding, touching on issues of prejudice, justice, and the values a company upholds. As Jamal clung to his mother, he realized that while the world might be filled with biases, he was fortunate to have a family that would always stand by his side. The seconds following Jamal's revelations seemed to stretch on endlessly. The weight of anticipation pressed heavily on everyone in the showroom. The usual hustle and bustle had come to a standstill, replaced by an oppressive silence, only punctuated by the occasional murmured conversation among the employees. All eyes were on Mr. Armstrong, who stood with an aura of authority that was impossible to ignore. He turned to Lisa, seeking her counsel. In a low voice, they shared expressions and subtle nods that spoke of years of partnership, of facing challenges together, of making decisions that impacted not just their family but an entire empire they had built. After what felt like an eternity, their course of action would be decided. Mr. Armstrong cleared his throat, commanding the attention of everyone in the room. "This brand," he began, his voice firm and resonating, "is not just about luxury and cars. It's about values, respect and understanding. It represents the dreams of many, including my own. And it saddens me that the very principles we stand for were compromised today." He then turned his gaze to the now visibly trembling manager. "For his disgraceful behavior and poor representation of our brand's values," Mr. Armstrong continued, "he is hereby relieved of his duties, effective immediately." The words were delivered with finality, leaving no room for debate. The manager, his face a mix of shock, regret and embarrassment, took a hesitant step back, realizing the gravity of his actions. Rosa, who had been silently observing, was unprepared when Mr. Armstrong turned to her. His stern demeanor softened just a bit in the face of adversity. "You showcased empathy and courage, traits that are essential for leadership," he said, letting the words sink in before continuing. "I appoint you as the new store manager. It is my hope and expectation that under your leadership, this store will be a beacon of respect, acceptance, and unparalleled service." Rosa, visibly emotional, nodded and said, "Thank you, Mr. Armstrong. I promise to uphold the values of this brand and ensure that no one ever feels unwelcome or judged in this store again." With the decisions made and a new era for the store on the horizon, Mr. Armstrong turned his attention to Jamal. "How about we make this visit memorable for a better reason?" he suggested with a smile. A short while later, the roar of an engine echoed through the showroom. The sleek silver sports car that had caught Jamal's eye earlier now had the Armstrong family inside as they drove out. Jamal's face was lit with joy, the earlier incident slowly fading in the face of newfound happiness. Rosa, the new manager, stood by the entrance, waving them off, a promise of a better future shining in her eyes. In the background, the former manager watched, a bitter reminder of the high price of prejudice and the invaluable worth of kindness etched in his expression. The showroom, once a place of bias, was now on its way to becoming a symbol of hope, change, and acceptance.